Mended light.
Wow.
So you just think you're gay.
Well, no, I don't think I'm gay. I know I'm. Hi, Mended light.
I already did it.
That's true.
So we got the comment from one of our viewers.
Well, so this segment is called Therapists Say, where we break down. We're so on it. We are on fire. We're super in sync. So we asked our viewers, what is the worst advice they have ever received from a therapist? And someone replied that a therapist told them that they only thought that they were gay.
You should stop thinking so much.
Just feel. So what would be the context of a therapist saying that? I can think of a couple. One, you have an old-fashioned therapist who doesn't believe homosexuality is real and just says it's all in your head. The other could be on the opposite end of the spectrum, someone who is like a gay gatekeeper and says, no, you're not gay. You're not one of us. I can't really speak authoritatively
On what the context was.
But
how do you handle that? Because I'm sure there are people who have experienced this, not specifically from therapists, but maybe from their community, maybe their family, maybe friends they grew up with.
Yeah. Well, the one that I've heard all my whole life is that being gay is a choice, right? That, so he chose this lifestyle, or he chose this or that. And here's the thing, we don't choose who we're attracted to. Like, we choose what we do with our lives. We choose what relationships we pursue, but the actual attraction is just there.
Right.
And I've heard from so many people, especially who come from more conservative, traditional backgrounds, that they would never choose this because in their family or in their church, it's a sin. And it would be so much easier to just do what everyone else is doing.
Right.
And that if it were a choice, this is not the path that they would have chosen. It is literally just, this is who I'm attracted to. This is who I'm drawn to. This is who I want to spend the rest of my life with. And it's not a great advice.
So what advice do you give to counteract the terrible advice?
Like, if this person were in therapy with me?
Yeah, and let's say it was their previous therapist that said that. What is the counter advice to you just think you're gay?
The counter advice is, I think, therefore I am. Right? If I just think I'm gay, well, I also think I'm powerful, or I also think I am affectionate or smart or funny. Like, okay, if you're saying that this comes down to a self-belief, okay. You know, what I would tell that person in therapy is, your identity, when you look in the mirror, when you ponder and contemplate who you are, what is that? Right? Who is that? Because being gay is not someone's identity. It is a facet of who they are. Because I don't identify myself as a straight man, period. Yep, that sums me up.
I think that's how you introduce yourself.
Yeah, hi, I'm Jonathan, straight man. Because there's so much...
Let me tell you about my relationship status next.
Well, your sexuality is one facet of who you are.
Right.
Right? There's so much more that makes you, you. And like, some of it is chosen and some of it is innate, and then we choose what we nurture, right?
But your sexuality doesn't define you anymore just because you're gay versus your sexuality defining you if you're not gay.
Right. Like, my sexuality is just my sexuality, but what's my personality?
Right.
Right? What are my strengths? What are my weaknesses? What are my gifts to the world? What are my gifts to a relationship? How do I contribute to a family? How do I contribute to a company? What do I enjoy that makes me me? What am I passionate about that makes me me? And what I would say to someone in my office whose therapist told them, you just think you're gay, is I would say, first and foremost, that therapist doesn't know what the hell they're talking about.
And so we can have people in positions of authority, if you will, that say ridiculous things that aren't a fit. And that might be their paradigm, but we don't need to accept it as ours.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't want to talk myself out of a job by saying, don't listen to your therapist. But I would say that a therapist exists to help you explore new avenues for thought, to give you new skills, new tools, to ask you questions that maybe you're not asking yourself. And a good therapist is never going to tell you what to do with your life or who you are. They're going to help you to explore the space. This really sounds to me like a therapist imposing their values. It sounds to me without knowledge of the context.
Which is overstepping a boundary.
Yes, which is overstepping a boundary. I think it's important for a therapist to own their values and own who they are so
Right.
that a client transparently can say, yeah, I don't want to work with you, or no, I still want to work with you, but I have no business taking my worldview and trying to make that into the person
Yeah.
in front of me.
Projecting your values, your experiences
Yeah.
onto the person.
So there's that avenue of a therapist overstepping their bounds, imposing their values, or someone who doesn't believe the experiences of other people when they say, I am attracted to people of my same gender and I want to spend my life with someone of my same gender. There's also the aspect of it of, I don't know who I am, maybe I'm gay, right? And in that case, the answer is very simple. Do you find yourself drawn sexually or romantically to a person of your same sex? Period. Because being gay, speaking of not being a choice, is not something you just try on. You know, like I'm going to try on Star Wars versus Star Trek, or I'm going to try on ballroom dancing versus doing the rodeo. And some people might say you absolutely can try it on, and I'm not going to dispute the point. Like there are people who have dabbled to see if this space is the space that they occupy versus not. But what I will say is, when you think of being held in someone's arms, whose arms are you in? You know, that's probably my quickest measurement for that. We're all in a search for identity. I look at Eric Erickson and his wife Joan. He was a psychiatrist, she was an educator, and they talked about the stages of development, of human development across the lifetime. And that at around adolescence, you have this stage called identity versus role confusion. And then the next step is intimacy versus isolation. And in identity versus role confusion, you are trying to figure out who you are, what your values are, where you fit,
Right.
and what philosophies you hold to, what groups you connect with, what worldviews are your own. And it is natural during this period to try different things on. And I don't know if it's insensitive. It might be. I don't know if it's insensitive to compare this to when I was in middle school. I hung out with the skaters for a while. And
Yeah.
I'm like, that's not a fit. I can't skateboard. And that's not my fashion sense anyway. And I hung out with the jocks for a while. And I'm like, oh, I'm not especially athletic. And I hung out with different groups trying to figure out where I fit in. But what I would say is being gay isn't a social group, right? Yes, there is an LGBTQ community
Right.
that forms of people who have similar attractions or similar experiences with gender, but you don't choose to be gay because you like the social group. You know, you might choose to hang out with those people because you enjoy them, and if you don't experience that type of attraction or that experience with gender, then you're an ally. But being gay isn't, I'm a Democrat, I'm a Republican, I'm a Baptist, I'm a Jew. You know, being gay is sexuality. It's not something you ask for or something you choose. You choose what to do with it, but the attraction itself is just there. What would you say to a person who, like maybe they have a family member and that family believes that homosexuality is sinful, for example, and they really just want you to think that you're gay because then maybe you can unthink it and just like maintain the status quo. What would you say to someone like that?
So how do you carry on a relationship
Yeah.
with completely different perspectives
Yeah.
around the homosexual community? Well, first and foremost, there has to be a safe environment to be who you really are.
Yeah.
And there can be a difference of opinion on, okay, whether is this something you're choosing or whether this is something that is, just is, so on and so forth. As long as there's mutual respect for each other,
Yeah.
right? If there is not that mutual respect, then I'm going to question whether or not that's a safe space.
Yeah.
And then your boundaries need to reflect how much safety is there. If there's passive aggressive remarks and things of that nature, once again, that's your decision on whether or not you want to tolerate that.
Am I and my partner or spouse made to feel welcome or unwelcome is something
Yeah.
that comes to mind. Or, something that I often say from my own experience, and I would say, tell your therapist this or your friends and family this, like, please don't judge an experience you haven't had, right? Now, it is true that there are people who come from more traditional faith backgrounds who are trying to navigate those two
Right.
things, those two aspects of themselves. But
And for them, it's a moral decision, and for other people, it may or may
Right.
not be.
But one thing that has been universally true like all across like the field of psychology and family therapy, is to believe that this is a choice, to believe that you can just shut it off, does so much harm and damage. Like there are people who say, okay, I'm going to choose a path of religious celibacy. And there are straight people who choose a path of religious celibacy. And for those people, that may be a healthy choice. Like, this is what I value. I'm embracing my sexuality as real. I'm still choosing to walk this path, and that is my choice. And I'm not going to impose it on other gay people or other religious people, but this is the path that I'm walking.
Well, and it wasn't imposed on them.
Right.
It all comes down to autonomy and choice.
Because if they walk the path of religious celibacy because it's imposed on them, because of fear of hellfire and damnation, or because of fear of being ostracized by their faith community or by their family, it's not a choice. Mm-hmm. It's something that's done out of fear or intimidation, right? Similarly, if I choose and I say, like, once again, you don't choose your sexuality, but I may choose to leave my faith, and I may choose to say, I'm going to marry somebody, and just like a straight couple, like, we're going to seek happiness in this relationship. Yeah. That's also a choice. And I would say everything comes down to choice. I can't speak to this from experience, but I can speak from what my friends have told me who've walked this path, is if you are somebody who is both gay and you come from a traditional faith community, for example, is that you'll have people from both sides shouting in your ear what you should do and what the right thing to do is. And the fact is, you are an autonomous being. What's the right thing for you to do is what brings you happiness. Mm-hmm. And there will always be people, and we can blow this up even bigger, no matter who you are, no matter what your sexuality is, no matter what your choices are, there will be people who say nay. Yeah. You will have naysayers who will tell you that that is the wrong choice because that choice doesn't align with their worldview. But this is your life. This is your path to walk. But I will say, if you are attracted to somebody of your sex, you don't think you're gay. You're gay. What you do with that sexuality is up to you. But trying to talk yourself out of it, trying to pray the gay away, trying to make it just not be there, I've yet to meet the person that was a healthy, balanced thing to do that led to a good outcome for them.
Right. Because it's a rejection of part of yourself.
Correct. Yeah. It's saying part of me is unworthy, part of me is unlovable, part of me
is unacceptable.
Is unacceptable, as opposed to what real love is, which is I accept all of me. I choose what to do with all of me. I choose how to act. But the fact that this is part of me is something that needs to be loved and embraced and accepted. So we want to hear from you, especially those of you who have walked this path, because obviously this is us looking at the situation, applying whatever learning, wisdom, experience we have, but this is not our path. This is not the path that either of us have walked, and we have so much to learn from you. So let us know in the comments below if you've been told that you just think that you're gay, or that you chose this, or that
or how you've handled the challenges.
Yeah, or how you've handled those challenges. And go ahead. I thought you were intaking a breath. And for some people, there is no challenge. They say to their parents, I'm gay, and their parents say, great. Or they say, I'm gay, and their community says, okay. But we want to hear from you what your experience has been, because we want to learn from you. So let us know in the comments below.
If you've enjoyed this video, check out this other video. You're giving off the wrong signals, they said. That sounds like a good one.
Why would they say? I want to watch that to know what it's about. How? You're not giving off the wrong signals.
What signals are you giving off?
Wouldn't you like to know? I think you know. Until next time, keep shining. We need your light. And there's the video we told you about. Clicky clicky, watchy watchy.